Alright guys, welcome back to the Dark Souls 3 all-in-one guide. Now, we already have this ring, but I was running from the skeletons and didn't think to label it, so it's the 33 out of 107, the Witch's Ring. This ring will greatly boost your pyromancies, and it can also stack with the Great Swamp Ring. Alright, we're going to prepare to go into the Irithyll of the Boreal Valley, but we're going to do something strange. We're going to get rid of all of our Estus flasks, all of them, but we're going to put it into Ashen Estus. Reason is, we need to use our spells a lot, and we really don't need to heal because our build is so utterly broken, we're hardly going to take any damage from any of the enemies because we're going to poison groups of them and just run away and they'll die on their own. I have found that poison is far from useless in Dark Souls 3, and I'm going to demonstrate that in this area of the Boreal Valley, this first area, because all the enemies are susceptible to poison. Pretty weak to poison, actually, but with the Storyteller Staff, which is the best way to poison enemies, you'll see how easy it is to go through this area without taking a scratch. In fact, we're not even going to sit at a bonfire until it's time for the boss, because we don't want all the enemies to respawn, and it's easy enough to go through the area without taking damage. As I mentioned before, you can take 2 blessed items and stack the effect for your health regeneration. You can also do this with focus points later once we get our hands on the simple infusion, and we will, trust me. But this actually will increase as you upgrade the items, so when you get to plus 10, you're going to have a substantial upgrade and you'll notice the difference. But blessed items is your contingency plan if you take damage, if you're going with no Estus flask like I am right here. Now we're just preparing for the first mini-boss of the area, the Sullivan Beast. It's like a crocodile dog or something. It's very fast and the hitboxes are pretty broken. However, with Carthus Rouge, you can bleed this thing out pretty quick. And it also helps to have stamina, so we're going to put on the Chloranthy Ring and we're going to use some Green Blossom to make sure that we can stack the damage pretty quickly. Now our reward for killing the Sullivan Beast is Pontiff's Right Eye. This is a pretty good ring for killing Aldridge because you're going to be hitting Aldridge a lot and it will give you a bonus to your attack the more you attack, so this is going to be a good ring to use. But yeah, make sure you have the Chloranthy Ring and some Green Blossoms on hand, and we're going to use the Carthus Rouge to bleed this sucker out. So what I like to do is just run up here to this first message, buff my blade, eat the blossom, and you got to quickly turn around. It'll do a roar, which will give you time to bleed it. Then it's just a matter of just dodging 1 or 2 attacks, and you can finish it off. It's not going to last long with Carthus Rouge. Now, it is vitally important that you have the Lingering Dragon Crest Ring on for this part because you're going to need as much spell time as possible. We're going to be poisoning all of the enemies in this first area, and we want to be invisible so we can get right up in their face to do it, and they won't see it, they won't even see us coming, and they won't hear us coming because we have the Slumbering Dragon Crest Ring on. But the Lingering Dragon Crest Ring is an absolute must. That ring you must have on for this part. And it's about 20 seconds per cast. Make sure you're counting between casts, because if you don't reapply Hidden Body in time, you're going to get caught out in the open with a bunch of enemies with no Estus, and that's definitely not a recipe for success. Just make sure you have this set up. Slumbering Dragon Crest Ring, Lingering Dragon Crest Ring, Lloyd's Sword Ring for extra damage, and the Storyteller Staff for sure. So try not to deviate from this path. This is a very consistent strategy that I've come up with for this part. So make sure you got your Ashen Estus ready. Cast right here. Come up here. You got to be quick because you're on like a timer. And you want to poison all 3 of these guys. Wait for this guy to come down the stairs. Make sure you get him too. Then it's very important to recast and then drink some Estus and then run. Because you're going to run to the next section, but you're going to ignore the hags that are wandering about. There's only 2 of them, but you'll get them on the way back because we got to loop back around here because we have to get a spell. And all the enemies will be dead, so it'll be easier to loot the area as well. But these are groups. You just want to poison the groups. Just try to aim for the middle. I just aim for the witch, not the hags, but this is just the middle hag here. You just recast here after poisoning that group. Then you want to come up here. Now this guy will not die from the poison, but he'll be very close to death. He's got more health for some reason. By this time it's time to drink again. Recast. I had trouble getting this other knight to get poisoned here. Just make sure you get both of them. See, if you don't see the numbers come up, then you know he's not poisoned. You get this crystal lizard, and there's an illusionary wall right here, or an illusionary staircase, I should say. There's another Pontiff Knight down here. You can't get too close to them. You have to keep your distance so that they won't aggro on you. But as soon as you see those numbers tick, then it's time to run away. There is a Cathedral Evangelist down here with a lot of health. They've been scaled for this area, so they're going to have a lot more health. So what I do is poison them. They're not going to see you, so you don't have to cast Hidden Body here. We're going to open this gate, and we're basically back at the beginning again, but all the enemies are dead from the poison. So now we can loot the area safely. Make sure to pick up all the shards. There's one up here. Now there are 2 enemies left that we ignored, those 2 hags. These are quite annoying enemies. Some of them are invisible. These 2 in particular are not, but I recommend using your shield. Since we're not using Hidden Body right here. We do want to cast Hidden Body before moving forward though, because the witch will see us from a distance and start spewing fire. We don't want to deal with that, so we're just going to cast Hidden Body and run up to him and finish him off. One hit will do it because his health is practically gone. Just one hit from anything will take him out. And don't forget the shard that's right here. The game is throwing shards at you because they know you're going to need a stronger weapon at a +6 to take on Pontiff Sullivan. Now we're coming back over here because we need to kill that Cathedral Evangelist for our next miracle, which is the 7 out of 36, the gnawing miracle. This is the one that they use on you all the time, the bleed. It's basically a bunch of insects. Still had quite a bit of health for that enemy. Now we can move to the next section. This area also marks the end of Anre's quest because she has to die here if you're going for the hollow ending, which we are, the Usurpation of Fire ending. This is usually the ending you want to go for in your first playthrough. It's more involved, you have to do things. Then Cyrus's quest will come the next playthrough. But Anre will give us a gesture, so you got to make sure you talk to her before leaving the area, because once you leave the area, if you do not kill the chameleon in the corner, you'll not get that gesture for the entire playthrough, and that would be pretty bad because we're going for all the gestures in this one playthrough here. And you want to stick to the left here. You don't want to go forward yet. We're going to take care of all those enemies right now. We're not going to sit at any bonfires right now, so we're going to light it but not sit at it. But there's a Pontiff Knight right here. You can get him from above with the poison. He's very easy to poison because he's just going to stand there and take it. If an enemy stands there, it's going to be easier to poison them. It's when they're moving around kind of fidgety that you got to usually reapply the poison. Master of Rings, 35 of 107, the Magic Clutch Ring. It's basically the same as the Fire Clutch Ring. And all the Clutch Rings, it just gives you more damage. but compromises your damage absorption. But I like these kind of rings because I usually play spongy characters, so it's right up my alley. Here I almost got in some trouble. I'm lucky he turned around because I ran out of Estus. Just make sure you're keeping tabs on how much Estus you used, so you don't get caught like that. Luckily he turned around. Got one more group here to poison. And that's it. None of these enemies will last through the poison. It's just that one witch that for some reason had more health, and the Cathedral Evangelist that had more health. The rest of them will die. All of them. At least on New Game. You want to make sure you get this shard here. And we're going to enter the church. But we're going to get Quiet Resolve. 23 out of 26. We're almost done with the gestures. Just 3 more to go. But we're going to light this bonfire, but we're not going to sit at it. We don't want any enemies to respawn, because we have to come back through this area again. Just make sure you exhaust all of her dialogue. And get that gesture, because this is the end of her. This is the end. She's going to die after this. We're just going to wave bye to her. We'll see you next playthrough. But here is one of the Covenant items that you will not like to farm. The worst item in the game to farm, most definitely. That's going to come later. But here in this corner is the Chameleon. If you don't want her to die, you'll kill that statue in the corner. One of those statues. And you'll save her. But she's going to die anyway, so it doesn't matter at the end of the day. As soon as you come down these stairs, just loop around to get this item. Now we're going to get our bow out. And I have fire arrows here because there's some dogs and these invisible hollow hags or whatever they're called. They're quite annoying, and if you use the torch you can kind of see them easier. But the fire arrows have split damage, so they don't do a whole lot of damage. But the dogs are very weak to fire, and they will go into a animation where they're on their back, and it's much easier to kill them from a distance. And trust me, this area is filled with dogs. At the end of this area is filled with dogs, and you do not want to deal with all that. There is another one sitting right here by this tombstone. It's also easier to gauge where they are because you have arrows sticking out of them. The game wants you to come over here to get this fading soul, and you get ambushed from behind. Now, your Estus shard is over here. Your 7th out of 10 for your ultimate bonfire achievement. You want to kill this Corvian first. There you go. Now, this next area, you could pretty much run through it. I shouldn't have just tried to poison all the enemies. But, yeah, it's a cluster down here. You don't really want to be in this area. When you get to this dark area. But there's a little side area here with some dogs. We get to demonstrate how useful the fire arrows can be against them. In one of my earlier videos I used fire surge to keep them at bay, but this is your better option. Fire arrows are much better because you can attack them from a distance, and you can never have them get up and come after you. As you see, they go into this rolling animation on their back. You just keep pelting them until they die. Most of them only take 2 shots. It is your weapon of choice for taking out dogs. But we are going to use Alluring Skulls. Down, boy. We are going to use Alluring Skulls to take out a group later on in the level. This next area, this is a cluster, guys. It's better to just run through this area and get the items. I just got a little cheeky and wanted to kill everything. So you don't feel like you have to kill all the enemies. It's really not worth it, to be honest. There's just way too many of them down here. But if you want to poison them, it's easy to do so. You just got to make sure you keep recasting, reapplying your hidden body. You definitely don't want to get caught in the middle of all this. These enemies cause a lot of damage. And if you don't have a shield up, you're going to be kind of screwed. And if you get too close to them, they'll know you're there, even though you still have hidden body applied. Even still, I didn't poison all the enemies in the first go here. And always look down to see if they're following you, because they will climb up the ladder here. And there's been many times where I've had 2 or 3 of them just coming at me. But I don't think any of them saw me this time. Now there are a couple more hags on the rafters here. One straight ahead, one to the left, and there's one to the right as well. I actually knocked that guy, I think. No. You can knock them off the rafters with one good shot, as that one did. This one's casting magic, but he'll die quickly. If you take the right side over here, there's a hag and there's a hidden item underneath Yorshka's spear. We'll loot the bottom area in a minute. That's why I wanted to kill all the enemies. It's just some blue bug pellets. It's nothing big. Although those will come in handy for Aldridge. Now if you do take damage like I did, since we don't have any Estus, you can use blessed items and stack them. And the rate is pretty quick to recover. And we only have it at +6. Imagine when we get it to +10. Plus we'll have the Sun Princess Ring. And you'll be very surprised at how quickly you will regenerate health. And your need for Estus flasks will further diminish. Plus you can use healing spells as well. The need for Estus with this build is just not, unless you're in a boss fight, it's really not that important. There are other ways to heal yourself. Yeah, just put up your shield for these stragglers. They do a lot of damage, and I'm not doing too much damage because I'm using the blessed knife that I don't have any faith. I haven't put any faith to increase my damage for the blessed knife. Oh, see, they're climbing up now, see? You have to be very careful. They'll follow you, too, for a good while. They're very sneaky enemies. Probably the sneakiest enemy in the entire game, these things, because you can't really see them very well until it's too late. But the best way to do this next section is to come over here through this passageway, and you'll drop down to the back side of the area where you'll get the blood gem, and then you can get the other enemies. There's a bunch of enemies over here that you can't see, and they're just waiting for you, but you can come from the other side and kind of surprise them. And then this one in particular has some kind of a buff spell or something. I think he's buffing the other enemies. I'm not exactly sure. But he's guarding the blood gem. We'll need that for one of our infusions later. For our Master of Infusion achievement. Once the cat's out of the bag, we're just going to put up our shield. There's a bunch of them over here. And there's an illusionary wall with a crystal lizard that we want to get. But all these enemies are over here, and there's still some of them that will come from somewhere, I'm not even sure. You can see with the Shield of Want, you're not going to take any damage from them. There's one more I know. I hear him, but I can't see him. And there he is. Crystal is right here. You just got to break through this. Now we're switching to our fire bandit knife here because there's some sewer centipedes that we're about to take out downstairs, and they're very weak to fire, so better to have this weapon. We're going to take some damage here because we're going to jump down and plunge attack this sewer. I think they're called sewer centipedes. Pretty sure I killed all of them. I'm just being cautious. We're going to just plunge attack this one. I'm going to make our way all the way to the other side to get the great heal spell. It's guarded by 2 sewer centipedes, but we're going to not pick up the item first. We're going to kill the enemies first, because what the game wants you to do is pick up the item and get ambushed by the 2 sewer centipedes. So we're going to do it the right way and kill them first. They'll never see us coming. They're programmed to rise up as soon as you pick up the item, but if you approach them first and kill them first, you'll thwart the attack. The other one won't even rise up when you're killing his friend, so much easier to do it this way. But this will be your 8th miracle, Great Heal. Pretty sure that this spell takes 2 slots to use. Now we're going to go hit a bonfire. We're not going to sit at it though. We're just going to light it, because we want to warp back here later when we do Irithyll Dungeon. Now, very important, if you want to do all of Grey Rat's quest and all of Sigurd's quest, you need to make sure you talk to Sigurd here, exhaust all of his dialogue before sending Grey Rat to pillage, because if you don't talk to Sigurd here, you're going to get Grey Rat killed in his next expedition. So you got to make sure you talk to Sigurd. It's vital. And do not go to Irithyll Dungeon yet, which is the way forward here, because if you don't, it'll mess up the whole quest if you go this early. And besides, we don't want to go to Irithyll Dungeon yet because we want to get some infusions that we're about to get from Orlando. It's going to make our life a lot easier too. But right here, I do not fight any of these centipedes, sewer centipedes. The only thing that's in this area that you want to loot is stalk dung pie, and I'm just not interested in that. But it's here if you want it, but I just didn't want to get it. It's just not worth it. I'm just going to run and get the excrement ashes. Now this you do want. Just get this item and get to Sigurd. Once you wake up Sigurd, you'll get your next miracle, Emit Force. If you've taken damage, you'll get healed from Sigurd. You got some Estus soup here you can use, or you'll do a toast with him to get some health back. Just make sure you wake him up, exhaust all of his dialogue. Give you another Sigurd bro as well. Now we're fully healed. He'll talk about his promise and go back to sleep. Now at this point you could go back to Firelink and send Grey Rat to pillage. It's safe to do so now. And as soon as you kill the next boss, which is Pontiff Sullivan, he'll already be back. You just got to make sure you talk to Sigurd there. Now these knights are very good to farm for large Titanite shards, but you're about to get an ash that's going to allow you to buy it very soon, so it really doesn't matter at the end of the day. But they're a good farming enemy. Here you get your next ring up here, the Leo ring. Make sure you take this path so you don't deal with the Silver Knights. We are going to kill them here, but it's easier to loot the area safely going this direction. Right here is where he'll start shooting. You can just cast Hidden Body and approach him from behind. Well, you probably waited a little too long to cast Hidden Body, because now he's aware of our presence. We got to kind of let him cool off a little bit. Recast, and then we'll get him. Well, he wasn't fooled this time. Some of the enemies I've noticed are a bit smarter than others, but we can still finish him off pretty easily. You can see how frequently they drop Titanite shards, large Titanite shards. I think they just have demand of a larger range to back up, I think. They need more space, I think. You can still manipulate them, as you can see. Now, this next section is a bit dicey. There are dogs that are programmed to attack no matter what. Once you get to a certain area, this knight didn't quite die. And it's kind of hard to go through this area without taking damage. We're going to take some damage from the spell casters and things that eventually I just give up and just run through and just attack, because once they get you, there's going to be a ring here in New Game Plus. They're going to attack you all over the place. And it's just a cluster. But I do advise Alluring Skulls here. I think I'm going to put them on right now. But as soon as you reach the top of this staircase is when you're going to get ambushed by multiple dogs. But if you go Hidden Body, then have them spawn. Right here, they're coming. I just throw Alluring Skulls, make sure you get their attention. Then you finish them off with the fire knife there. Now, there's another group that's got a straggler dog that will join the party later, which is another reason I like to use Alluring Skulls here, because the initial group of dogs is not the whole thing. It's kind of deceiving in a way. But there's a group off to the right there, but there's even more of them. Again, we're just going to throw Alluring Skulls. You see there's 3 there. And there's another one that came late. At this point, I'm getting pelted by spells. Even though I'm invisible, I'm still getting pelted. So it's quite annoying, these enemies. Now, there's a shortcut back to the Church of Yorska. You'll definitely want to open this shortcut up. But we're going to open up an even better shortcut very shortly. But here's the first one. You see, we took quite a bit of damage from those spells. But we're nearly done with the area, so we don't have to survive much longer without Estus. But right here, I find it's just better to go Hidden Body and just run through the area. The only thing down here are bug pellets, I think. Now here's the boss up here, but we want to open up another shortcut and kill the other enemies up here. Plus, we're going to get another ring, because we're going to go back to the original area that we poisoned, and everybody's dead now, and we still didn't sit at a bonfire, so they're still dead. Another reason I didn't want to sit at a bonfire. But before dropping down here, you want to make sure you open up the next shortcut. Be wary, there are hidden hags here, and one I didn't see. That one. Just came out of nowhere and stabbed me. Took even more of my health away. Just be wary. As soon as you open up this gate, though, you're safe. But this, these witches, they have more health than the other enemies, I think. And this one didn't quite die from the poison either. But look at his health. It's practically gone. Poison may not outright kill everything, but it will weaken them significantly. Now, here is the Ring of the Sun's Firstborn. I think it's been a bit nerfed from Dark Souls 1. Dark Souls 1, it was very good. We're just going to ignore these enemies. Drop down and get the ring. Now it's back to the Church of Yorska. Oh, and here's a lightning gem. You'll need this for one of your infusions. And we're about to get the coal for that one. And Orlando will give us that coal. And more importantly, the simple infusion, which we will use immediately. Because in the next episode, we'll get our first simple gem right off the bat above Pontiff's boss room. And we'll be able to infuse our bandit knife with simple, which will allow us to regenerate focus points. And then when we get to Irithyll Dungeon, we'll be able to get another simple gem and infuse our shield with simple, and then we'll be able to regenerate twice as fast. Now it's time to send Greyrat on his quest. Make sure you burn your undead bone shard that we got in the cemetery. Give the ashes to the handmaiden. You're basically giving her a pile of crap. Now, we should be able to allot our Estus back into healing Estus because of the boss. And we also want to get our blessed knives, or blessed items, I should say, the knife and the cestus 2+6, or just as far as high as you can get them right now, which is 5.
Be careful.
Now make sure to send Greyrat on his quest before going to the boss.
Goodbye, Deuce.
This is where I screwed up in my Indiana Jones walkthrough. I didn't send him to pillage before killing Pontiff, and that was a mistake I made.
Welcome has been very well then taken.
I want to get my strength to 19 and my vitality to 15. I need my strength at 19 so I can wield the Dragon Rider bow, which is going to be my main bow for multiple playthroughs. It upgrades with Titanite skills, which is not going to be easy to find right now. So much later, I'll have it upgraded. But first, I'm going to put all my scales into the rapier. And then I'll do the Shield of Want. Once you get to Archdragon Peak, you'll be able to buy them from the Handmaiden because you'll get the ashes to do so. But here's your Pontiff setup. You definitely want stamina, the right eye of Pontiff, and the sword ring. This is what you want for the boss. And of course a parry shield. And dark damage. And make sure you allot your Estus back to healing Estus, because Ashen Estus will do us no good in this fight. Now, as far as the Pontiff fight goes, it's better to tank him, because when he does his transition into his second phase, you can stack a ton of damage on him and make the second phase quite easy. Now, in my Indiana Jones walkthrough, I had an overpowered weapon, I wasn't supposed to have. Plus, I had the Hornet Ring, but I don't have all those things right now, so it's going to be a little bit of a tougher fight, a little bit of a longer fight. I think I beat him in like 20 seconds in my first Indiana Jones walkthrough. But here, you just want to parry him initially, get some damage on him, and then get up on him with the dark damage. With Right Eye of Pontiff, it's not going to take too long to kill him. You're still going to have to dodge a few of his attacks, though. And remember, you can only parry his fire sword. You cannot parry the other one. But much like Gwen in the first game, he's going to open with that one attack, which you can parry pretty easily and get a quarter of his health already gone. But the more stamina you have, the better. Make sure when he goes down to a knee that you back up because he's going to do an AoE attack. You can get a few shots in, but back up. And if you go in too quickly like I did there, you'll take some damage. And then he's going to transition. This is where you're going to get some damage in. He's almost dead practically. You just need a few more hits and it's over. And his clone is nearly dead as well. But he'll telegraph his attacks now. You watch the clone, which makes it even easier to kill him, since you know what's coming. At this point, I just go in guns blazing because he's nearly dead, and that's it. With the right setup, this boss is not that hard. Make sure to put on your Symbol of Avarice, and I forgot to put on the Shield of Want here. I don't think I got it in time to get the maximum souls. So you might have missed out on some souls there. Alright guys, I'll see you in the next one.